Hey, it was so great to be joined by business builder Bob Greene as he shared the journey from, a dream, a vision in his mind, not a big vision, just some desire to get started, all the way to the point where he's at now, which is a company of about 200 employees, having built 30,000 pole buildings, big uh, sheet steel covered buildings used for office space, uh, daycare centers, barns, pavilions, garages, for residential, for commercial, all over the board. Bob and his company have built amazing things, and so he shares in this video and in this podcast how he got started, difficult times that he's had, and a few of the business builders ask him questions like, "How do you grow? Do you build infrastructure first and then go out and sell it, or do you sell it and be like, oh crap, now we got to get it done?" Answers that question, and he talks about employee motivation. There's a bunch of gems in here. I hope you enjoy this. I know if you have your notebook out, or if you're driving and listening, you'll learn. And what happens is this intro from me is going to cut and we'll go right into getting started with Bob. Take care. Enjoy. Thanks.
That's well, we want the real stuff. So, what is the business like now? If you were to describe it, like you told me, number of employees and the campus, I'll call it like the Pioneer
Yeah.
campus. What does it look like now?
Well, most of our, everything's run out of our main facility there where close by you. And we got about 27 acres there. And we run a couple different companies that are right there that run under the same corporation. So Pioneer is the main mothership, so to speak. And then we have Alpine Building Supply and Pioneer Metal Roofing, just kind of supplemental of filling. I always say it's the pie of different pieces that fit the pie, and you're just filling out the pie. So I mean, I could start where I started if you want me to, or how I got into where I did. So I became what many turn out to be as a college dropout from Penn State and needed a job, and I went to work selling vacuum cleaners, which is a tough, straight commission, door to door type thing, and wasn't what you wanted to do all the time. So my next job was, I stepped up in the world and sold insurance for combined insurance, and that was even tougher. But what I learned there is some things that really, you don't realize till you look back 25, 30 years later and realize the things that they taught you to make their business successful, they needed to really train you. And a big thing was attitude, of having a positive attitude and, not getting down, because when you're selling insurance door to door, a lot of doors are getting slammed in your face. But eventually I left that type of business and I went to work for a company not far and probably close to Tony's company down in Deer Lake called Metal Sales. And they're a steel roofing and siding manufacturer across the country. And I ended up working for them for a few years. And another salesman and I really were concerned with the quality of the product that was being put out. Well, Metal Sales was putting out millions and millions of feet of product. So any penny they could save was making them money, and we wanted them to use a better product. And they were like, who are these young punks telling us how to run this? So my coworker there, Craig Colville, his name is, he left and he started his own roll forming business. And it was called Everlast Roofing. It's down in Lebanon now. And he convinced me to come work for him. And I did. And my part of it was Where I sold to Wicks Lumber and um, Home Depot and Lowe's and 84 Lumber, and you've dealt with counter people who didn't know a whole lot about the product of what a pole building was, or, and I went in there and told them you could sell these, but they're like, oh, well, we don't know how to figure. So my niche became figuring out all the materials for a pole building, all the lumber, trusses, footers, everything they needed, just so that I could sell my product, which was the metal roofing and the metal siding.
Wow.
So it helped them sell all the lumber, and I just got the metal roofing and siding. And when Craig left, Craig was like, hey, you could come do that for me and sell all the lumber. And I said, that's great. I had a passion for that. I enjoyed it. And I went and did that. And on Christmas Eve, or I'm sorry, New Year's Eve of 1997, I got a call from Craig, and he said, we're getting too many complaints from dealers because we're selling lumber, and you're competing with them in what they do. So we're going to shut that part of it down and just have you sell metal again. And I said, well, you got a couple 100,000 in wood in lumber inventory. And so I said, why don't you give me 6 months to pay you and let me try to do this on my own and me just become a customer of yours. And he said, I'll sell you that 50 cents on the dollar we're going to get at auction. I'll give you a year to pay for it if you're going to pay dollar for dollar. So that was kind of my financing to start the business. Plus I had the option that if I failed, he said, just come and take your sales job back. And needless to say, luckily I didn't fail at that time. And it got me started. And I started just the way it was, and I sold, I delivered. But the one thing I never did and was never able to do that a lot of people don't know is I couldn't build a doghouse, and I still can't. I can't hammer a nail straight. I can't do anything. And we're going to build our 30,000th building next month, and I could not build one of them. So it shows, I was able to, at the start, I was just selling kits. What I was thinking of selling just to continue selling them to lumber yards. And then we started to get where people were like, well, can you build them? So, we hired, some subcontractors to build them. And it just kind of grew from that point on of, I started out in Pottsville above my garage. It was about a 16 by 16 garage, and then rented a garage in Pottsville. And it grew so quick that I started, my business started January 5th of 98. And in February of 2000, we moved into that location we are at now. Now we expanded by buying the adjoining properties as the years went, but we built an office there. I moved into that office and sat in my chair the first day and said to myself, oh my God, what did I do? Because I had this big, huge everything, and I thought I'll never fill this. And we've expanded, like you say, Wayne, it seems like every couple months we're expanding onto it. So it grew fast at the start, and just kind of is still growing today.
And now you shared with me that you have seasonally as many as 200 employees, right? 175, yeah. Like most of the time.
Yes. So we have 175 full-time people, and then we'll hire some college kids and some part-time people in the summer to, fill out and do some different things and take care of all the landscaping and grass cutting. And we have 2 shifts at the main warehouse there. So we have a second shift that does some things, and we have a lot of people working remote that we found during the pandemic are actually more productive working from home than being in the office. So it's been, growing and expanding. Even in the last year, we actually, still grew in our sales, even being shut down partly in the pandemic.
What are the, like, if we were to like map it out a bit, like what are the chunks of the business, or what are the teams or the squads? So you talked about 2 production shifts, right? So like I've experienced the crew that comes out and builds the building, and you and I did a little small project together with the sales team. So there's like sales, there's marketing. What are those different components, if you were to like try to like lay that out a little bit?
So I mean, the way we define it would be like, we taking the calls in and kind of processing paper, paying, we have our accounting and then we have engineering, which has grown from being me laying in bed next to my wife doing the material list at the beginning on paper, to actually having 3 engineering guys who are using my same design, but in spreadsheets and calculations, and that's all in the system, and spitting out the material list that then goes to our purchasing department, who uploads that into the system, breaks that down into the different bundles and groupings of the materials that go to one building or the other building for the trusses and accessories. I mean, there's lots of mini departments. You could call it the warehouse department, but within there we have accessories and pull packs, lumber packs, steel, trusses, loading, unloading. We have an inventory control department, which is 2 full-time guys that basically check everything that comes in and everything that goes out, and making sure that it matches what it should be. And then we have sales. We actually have in the buildings, we have a commercial division, which was basically one of our competitors 3 years ago, was struggling in the market and approached us about buying their company. And they were so close, they were in the Allentown area, that it didn't make sense for us to buy their operation. But they were so close to shutting down that they basically just shut down and came to work for us. So we grew 24 people overnight in a whole division that we built on, that now builds, some work that we would turn away from. Our bread and butter was your little barn type thing, Wayne, like what you got and what our office is. But now we do, full-fledged, $1 million horse riding arenas and horse stalls, and actually some commercial. We're on a project now in Southern Virginia for ATF for some high clearances that we had to put our guys through, that the trucks get searched every day coming into the job site, and they're just storing different high security items in the building. So but that was all stuff that we never took the time to go after and bid. And this commercial division doesn't do the volume of buildings that we do in what we would call our pole building division, but their average price is 20, 30 times what our regular pole building division is. So it kind of, again, is a piece of the pie that fits in there and allows our core structure of office, engineering, and staff to still service, because it's still putting that product through that conveyor line. It's just different items on that conveyor line. I don't know if that answers your question.
Sure. I've heard you talk about conveyor lines before and movement. So clearly it seems like that's part of how you think is Like, how do I since you can't build a doghouse, you think about process and how to pull it through. Is that a strength of yours?
I don't know if it's a strength of mine, but it's a strength of what, how we got everything designed is having key people in the right position. So I don't know who said it, if anybody popular said it, but I've always stuck with me of always try to hire somebody that's smarter and better than you in the position you want to fill them in. And we have a lot of key, very good long-term employees running certain parts of things and committed. And that helps those processes along. I'm a process guy. I like it to be done this way today, tomorrow, and next week until we make it better, but then consistently follow that same thing. And sometimes that's my downfall is I'll walk our yard and actually check those things that I did 25 years ago, that are they doing that pull pack the way I designed it? And do they know why? Because sometimes what I figured out was we had people coming in and they're like, why are we doing that? I have no idea. That's so much harder. But then we started to realize you got to train them on why we have a pull pack that's only 2 foot wide. And the reason is because of the way it fits on the truck, and why we put lumber, why do we have 2x4s on the bottom of the bundle and 2x4s on the top of the bundle? And explaining to our guys that when that package gets out on the job site, we want materials to be handled the least amount of times that they're handled. And by doing the packaging the right way, we're letting that crew use the material coming off that bundle as they need it. So the steel's on that bundle. Our competitors deliver the building and the steel is right on the top of the lumber bundle. Well, the steel's going on the building last, but yet it's the first thing that the crew has to deal with. Where ours is that the steel is at the bottom of the bundle, but protected with 2x4s underneath it, where when they get to the steel, they're able to start putting steel where it's going to go, rather than just moving it and then moving it again and increasing your chance for damaging it. So it's good to have processes in place, but sometimes the people that are doing it need to know what the benefit of it is that they're doing that, because they just get negative thoughts of, this is ridiculous, they're just doing this to make my life miserable type of thing.
Can you remember I'm sure you can, the first employee you hired? So sometimes I work with people, and hiring their first employee is a really big deal. It's hard, and you have to pay somebody, and you're smiling and be responsible. And then also when you hire an admin employee who is not a producer, who's not a revenue producing position, like that can be hard too. Can you remember some of those times when you hired somebody and maybe what thinking you had about it, what worries you had, how you pushed through it?
My first hire, her name is Monica Jacoby. She's still with me today. And it was more for receptionists, because at the time when I started, I was young, 29 years old. So I packed every job, had a driver, a subcontract driver come in. I loaded every job, or I took it to the job site. So at times I needed somebody just to answer the phone and do some things when I was going to be on the road. And so I thought I need like a receptionist, secretary type thing. So, I'm great. You're young. I think I know it all. I run an ad in the paper and I get like 25 respondents. I set up 20 interviews for this, and they come, I interview them all, and I go through them all, and and it's just overwhelming. You don't realize what you're not good at till you're, I thought this is a piece of cake, and it wasn't. It was hard. And I remember a Saturday morning, I got a letter thanking me for the interview. And I looked at it and I said, oh, this is the girl I was thinking I wanted to hire. So from that thank you letter, I called and I said, I got your letter, and I appreciate that. I want to offer you the job. When can you start? I could start Monday. So Monday morning, she shows up for work. I meet her at the door. I look her right in the eye and I think to myself, oh my God, that's not the girl I wanted to hire. It was somebody else. So needless to say, I think, well, I'll let her try. I didn't really, she wasn't even in my top 10. I'm thinking, what do we do? I'll try her. I can't, I never hired anybody before. I'm not going to hire and fire her in the same day. So she starts, needless to say, she's still with me. It's 23 years. On Friday, we had a meeting and we gave certificates out to some of the people who are here. We give them out when they're here 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, 10 year, and so on. And we brought her out and gave her one because it was her 23rd year of being with us. But that was a challenge because I didn't know it, but in the youngness, dumbness, you just think, oh, that can't be hard. It is a very important part of, I was lucky enough, I got somebody that fit and started, she started out just answering the phone and taking messages and stuff. And today she works in what we call our IPC department, which is taking care of customer service, of setting inspections. And she's a real, intricate part of our business and does a very good job for many years. We ended up hiring her husband years after, who's been with me for 16 years now. So, it's when you said it, it kind of set me back because I always kid her after a few years. I told her, you weren't my choice time. So, but it does a lot of things that you learn in the business. And some of you, I don't have to tell it, but you think back of, that what you're doing, and now you look back and say, boy, I really didn't have a clue. But you learn from it and you try to get better in everything you do. And I forget the second part of what your question was there.
Well, you sort of answered it. Yeah, it's like when the first time you hire somebody who isn't a producer, or the first time you hire somebody who's like overhead, which your first hire was somebody to answer the phone. They weren't out swinging a hammer or whatever. Can you think of periods of time where so that's a period of time where it was harder to interview people than you thought. Can you think of any other periods of time you went through where that you had to grow and change and think differently? Because certainly your journey, you're probably not the same business owner and leader that you were when you first started. It's necessitated almost like metamorphosis or something. Like you change and you look at things differently. Do you remember any periods of time of growth like that?
It's hard to say, but pretty much from the first year I started till this year, it's 23 years. Every year has been a grow. We've been growing every year. There was kind of that dip in the 07, 08, 09 range where things were leveled out, but we kind of rebounded, and we've grown from doing just under $1 million our first year to just under 40 million last year. So it's been different areas of what you've added and grown, but I haven't. I guess I'm always looking to improve, not necessarily in growing the business, but always looking to improve in what's out there to make the business run better. Be that functions of compute. The first few years you ran, we had one computer in the whole office. That was it. We ran on paper. When we brought computers in and put them at everybody's desk, everybody said, I don't need this. I don't want this. And 3 years later, when the power went out, everybody wanted to go home because their computer didn't work. I said, what happened about when I got these? And you said, we didn't need them. So, as innovation comes, being able to stay up with that and follow the trends and and the things that have nothing to do with our industry, but just, business in general, is always something to look to.
What are things that, like, right now you absolutely want to still be involved with? Like, what are the few things that what is your work? What is your work right now? What are the things that are the short list of, you definitely are the guy that makes those decisions or looks at things?
Well, if my sons were in the room, they would say every part of it. I met with my two sons, Matt's 26 and my son Brian's 34. They both work in the business. Brian runs our customer service department, and he also runs our human resources, and Matt runs the Alpine building supply. And I met with them yesterday just about keeping communication open between us as not only father and sons, but as with the business. And for them, it tends sometimes that they clam up, and because dad's a steamroller, so they don't approach him with problems, issues, things like that. And so it's just keeping that line of communication open. But I, right now tend to be real happy with where I'm at, because I get to dabble wherever I want to be. There was times that I was, I was had the schedule, and nobody in the world could do the schedule better than me. It's that nobody could do it, and that's not true. So, you can do it. So I spent the time to teach and train one of our key guys to do the scheduling and make sure that it's, that he had the skills and the knowledge to do it, because it's a full-time job and where it's at. And so I was able to give that up, but I'm still able to watch every part of it, because it's I'm a control freak, and they do it the way I set it up, designed it, and they follow it. And if they start to ease off, I ask why and have them justify why it is. And sometimes that's good, because you get a different outlook on why they want to do it this way. And I didn't think of it that way, but that's a good go with it. So giving them the freedom to do it, but it takes a special person in that, because they got to realize that I'm hands-on and I'm not far away. And I guess somebody defined me a few years ago in our inner workings of fair but demanding. So I try to just outline what they do, where they do it, but give them the freedom to do their job. So my likes of the business is where I came from, was that sales end of it. So us now having 10 outside salespeople, I enjoy our sales meetings of the sales challenges that salesmen run into, and being available to them, and seeing, sometimes, just being their trumpeter in the company of these guys. I'll be in the office 2 nights ago, and it's 10 to 7 at night. I'm getting ready to leave, and who comes walking in but one of our outside sales guys, and people think that, oh, these guys make all the money and all they do is, write paper, and we do all the work. So it's kind of a balance to say your job's very important, but so is theirs. And here's what they're doing. This guy left at 5 a.m, it's 7 at night, and he's stopping in the office to review paperwork and go over different things. So I like being able to get to that point that I can focus on our problem area. If we're failing in an area or not performing right, I could be at there. And I didn't realize that till you're able to do it. But when you're locked down, when I was doing all the engineering, so I would sit for hours and just do material lists just to keep up, to turning them off over to the people to order them and do things and like that. And you realize at 53, I can't, I used to just when I was 33, I would just say, well, I got all these lists. I'm not going home till I do them. And I'd work 36 hours straight, lots of coffee, and I would get them all done. And, I'd go home and I'd be like, I did that there. Probably about 3 years ago, I was 50. I thought, we're behind on this, this, and this. I'm staying all night. I'm going to do that. Well, it took me a week to get back to a normal. I walked around like a zombie, like I had a bag of concrete on my back, where you just don't have that stamina to do the things that you did, the young blood, so to speak.
Cool. Well, thanks. It's been great. I want to see if anybody has any questions. Because I could ask you questions forever. I find stuff like this to be fascinating, how it happens, how it moves around, where you're headed next. But I'm going to pause. So, Loretta, I can see you, and I'm glad you're here. Anything that you want to ask Bob? Anything you're curious about?
Well, it's kind of funny, or ironic, I guess I should say, Bob, what you were saying about having the stamina. We were pretty much shut down the past 3 weeks due to a COVID going through the plant. We have 18 people. So it was me and three other people that were able to keep going. And like, I was just freaking exhausted. It was just like, I was glad that the people that were here showed up, and, we had like a trickle of production, if that even, getting out the door. But and I'm guessing that, I don't know if you handle the COVID issues. I'm sure you have you said your one son handles HR and stuff like that.
Yeah, but I'm designated the COVID officer. Again,
okay.
Control freak part of me.
Yeah, somehow I got that as well. But and my brother's been saying this a while because he's more tied to production, but he's primarily in the office, but if he can run a machine, I can't run a printing press, or he can climb up on the roof and look at the HVAC and know what's going on. But he was out on quarantine. But, I kind of, we've had several times throughout our 40-year history that, as I'm sure you guys have had, notable moments in the company history that were extremely trying. And the past 3 weeks really took a lot out of me. And I'll be 60 this year, and I'm like it really forced me to start thinking okay, I'm not the teenager I was when I started here and had all that energy, and just throw it at me and I'll take care of it. And so you saying that kind of just mirrored what I've been thinking lately. And I'm, as Wayne knows, I'm trying to work on stepping back so that in the next 3 or 4 years I'll be out completely. But as one of the owners, I'm looking on the horizon and seeing areas where need to be filled in, and what potential things we could do for continuous improvement. You can't turn that off as an owner. I'm just always thinking along that way.
And that's kind of what, not that I have it fully in place, but having both my sons there and making sure that that I don't say, okay, next week I'm out of here, and that they know they need to know the other parts and pieces and where they are. And actually this week we just set up to twice a month where the three of us just go offsite. Just if it's for lunch, if it's to golf, it's just to talk about just life in general, or the things of work, the different issues that might be in a department, but including them in, every part of it, whether it's my part or Brian or Matt's part, and, letting them kind of mend and mold and be aware of everything rather than saying, oh, I only cover this. And they both seem to be aware of that. My older son, Brian, said that I won't leave my desk till, they're putting me in a coffin. So he's not concerned about, he said, you're going to work till the day you die. Now, I hope that's not completely true, but I kind of think he knows me maybe better than me. So, but I want them to know, be a part of it, which they are, just even taking it the next step of doing that and getting, that they're not left, if something would happen to me or something, that they're not left wondering what Dad was thinking in doing this. So but it's not easy. Like you said, there's a lot of things between your ears.
Yeah. We're second generation. So fortunately, before my dad passed, he had, put us in good shape. And we were already running the company for a couple of years by the time he did pass back in the early 90s. But we don't have that third generation interested in passing it on to. So that's
my grandson's 11 and he's already announced that he's going to run this company.
There you go. Maybe my grandson's 3. Maybe I could talk him into get a commitment. But anyway, no, I find your story very, very enlightening, and I just love to hear how people get to where they are. And like you said, when you look back on your 23 years, it's like, how did I end? Like, it's 23 years gone by. Like, how did we get here?
Yeah. Goes quick.
Yes. Goes quick. Yeah, it does.
Tony or Pete, do you have any questions for Bob? Anything to explore?
No, I tell you, my favorite part of the whole thing was hiring the wrong receptionist. So, I mean, that's just a great story to go along and with a very very powerful message of success. And it was just great to listen to it. I appreciate your story.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think I got a couple questions basically related, I think, in terms of what they're about. My business is going like 5 years now. I guess I'm coming up on my 5-year anniversary. And as far as growth goes, like I've watched Pioneer expand over the years because we're right down the street from each other. So I've watched your business grow and continue to, like Wayne says, there's another building going up. And obviously inspiring. And also, like, is it one of those things where you grew it to be ready for the growth? Like, did you expand to be prepared for growth, or did you like busting at the seams and you just had to expand?
That's a very good question, and it's kind of two-part, because there's been times over the years that you've done it both ways. You've prepared for growth, and there's been times that you've just gotten so busy that you're just busting at the seams, and you got to deal with that in a different way and how you go about it. About 4 years ago, an example of prepared growth is we wanted to make our own trim for the building. So all the parts and pieces that go, you put your steel roofing and your siding on, and then you cap all those corners with trim and things like that. And a lot of times those are I call them, we're in the egg business, because that's like shipping eggs with trim. So, and we bought it from our steel manufacturer in Lebanon. So you would get it delivered to Schuylkill Haven, you unload it, then you separate it out into your per job, and it got handled so many times, and every job had trim damage. So we designed for a few years the building, the equipment, the inventory, everything that was needed for that trim building, and then built the building, put the building in, had a business plan on that, on a return on investment of 5 years that it was going to pay for itself. And it was a nice, smooth process. And then other times we went from from doing about 500 buildings a year to doing 1,200 buildings a year in a year. So we more than doubled our business and had no room, like where to go with it, how to get it there, how to do trucks. And so that, Tony, would be the busting at the seams, like instant, how do we go about, kind of setting up a plan to fill a void like tomorrow rather than a long term. So you had your short term way of going about it, and then your long term is, of course, when you could foresee it, you're able to prepare for it a lot better. Some of it got kind of just thrusted on us of success, and you have to find a way to deal with it, which is sometimes just thinking outside the box of getting some other storage areas and things like that. We brought in some trailers and storage trailers to keep stuff in, and but both are a little challenging. It's just, if you can foresee it, of course, it's much better to prepare for it that way, because you also get to see, is it financially good for this expansion? Is this trim processing of us to do this, laying it all out and then seeing on paper of, what, this doesn't make no sense. Let's just keep buying it and try to ship it better. But we actually were able to cut our expense by almost 40% by doing it ourselves. And even factored in there that we didn't factor into the business plan part of it is how much we were going to save by not replacing, because we didn't get the vendor to pay for damaged panels because they were all in our custody and control. So we were footing the bill for all the damaged trim in the way it was being done before. I don't know if that answers
Tony may
your
have
question.
another.
Yeah, I think no, that definitely answers my question. The only other thing I think that kind of goes along with it is like staffing. Like, did you build the team and have them ready for the expansion, or was it like, holy crap, we expanded, we need to hire 8 people? And because I'm kind of at this point now where I'm like, holy crap, I just hired 2 people and I need to hire 2 more people.
Yeah. Staffing, it's an issue today, and I think that's a universal issue of not just me or you. It's the workforce isn't what it used to be per se. When I started the business, I think with me being more, it was a small business and you worked with everybody every day. We grew in a way that they became a part of what we were doing. The culture was our team, and we were doing this together. And I took some of the things I learned in some of the jobs I hated, of how not to treat people, how I was treated, that just made me feel worthless as a part. Here I am working on, and then I don't get treated right. So I tried to make sure that, one, we always had a positive attitude. There's negatives in every day, and everything we do, you can find a negative of to boo-hoo, but there's always positives. And sometimes in my guys, I got to find those positives in being their 3-year-old son, the things they're proud of. When new guys go out of their way to bring their son to meet me on a Saturday, and you see them beam with their, you bring the positive in. Yeah, you screwed this job up, but that doesn't define you. Your son is what's going to define you, and these things. But we got to stay positive. We got to fix it. You got to know about it. I can't be happy about it, but I'm not going to define you by it. And we move forward. So a positive attitude. And we did things that nobody does. We took the whole company. My first time, we took all our employees and their wives or husbands to Cancun, Mexico. And it was absolutely it was a part of our explosion in production, and not only in the people working for us, but the business we got. I mean, I almost feel that first trip like paid for itself tenfold, because we came back and I'd see people in the grocery store and they'd say, are you the guy that took all your employees to Cancun? And I was like, yeah. But you don't even know them, but the community was just like, this guy took everybody to Cancun. And I didn't do it for that. I did it because these people worked hard and we really pinned down, we did the things we want. And then we started taking them, we took all of them to Disneyland twice with their kid, all their kids and their spouse. We went to Aruba, we went to the Keys. We canceled this year. We were going, I don't even think we'd set, but we went to Marco Island in Florida. And they would look forward to that. And we would use that trip then to be a part of the success of the business, because as we grew, I was like, we start to divide the dividing lines. I called them the war lines of the warehouse did it. Oh, no, the drivers did it. The crew screwed it up. Sales screwed that up. And we would actually go on these trips and get together and have these team building in the Keys. I got all these materials like plastic, cardboard, and we had we made the teams, and the teams were all mixed. It was a crew foreman with a driver and a salesman, and we took from different departments, and they had to be a team to build a boat. And then we raced across the canal, like a little bay type thing to race the boats. And just about every boat sank, but you had to have a team and you had to put 2 people in. So now you're looking and saying, well, you're not going in because you're too big, So you're having your 2 smallest people in there so that the boat don't sink. And it was a lot of duct tape and PVC pipe and we had bandanas and shirts in different colors and to this day they talk about that. Another time we just took the whole company to the Boy Scout camp. Wayne, you know where the Boy Scout camp is, and far from here. And they will set up for companies to do team building exercise. And, they staff it and they take you through the woods and different things. And so, it's getting those right people and keeping them. And of course, making sure that you pay them. But over as the years went on, the challenge, I think, changed in the culture of our generation. And, it's like us finding a carpenter is just so hard to do that we now try to internally train and do things like that. But the retention isn't there of, the want. It's almost like they want to do multiple, they don't want to do the same job. So no matter how good you treat them, they're only going to be here so long and move on. And so getting the right people is a challenge. But knowing what keeps them there is what's a plus, and the positive attitude of treating them right and being there to support them. And everyone's a little different. So that's what makes it a dynamic that you can't hit across the board.
So no, you didn't get chatty. You got passionate, and it was awesome. And like you came alive. I'm so glad that Tony asked a question and you went there, because you got fired up. And I was thinking, and I know you to be like you're pretty generous with people, right? That doesn't mean everybody always sees it that way, but I think your crews, if they hit production levels, they get bonuses and things, and you want them to be safe, but also fast and quality. And
on Friday we met with our crew department. So it's 41 guys that are in our crew department. And we talked about, because the start of the year, we put a new bonus plan in for them. So in 41 guys, in the 6 weeks that we processed the bonus plan on top of their pay, we paid them $36,000 in bonus that they split pretty much equally. Some of the crews did a little bit more, but I like to be numbers guy. So of course why this crew do this much and this crew didn't do this much, and not in a negative way, but let's get that crew to do, how did you do this? Kind of like what we're to talk about it. How'd you get this? What'd you do different? And then try to get this crew to realize here's how they did it, because you're building the same type of building. And it really, to see people get excited about things, they were excited about, hey, I can make not only what I make, but now I can make extra money by just doing my job. And it's a win-win, because our general manager, when I put this in, said, you're nuts. You're gonna put this in, you're gonna have to take it away because you're gonna give them all our profit. I was like, no, the concept is, if they don't build it, if they don't build it in the hours we're putting in there, they're not going to get the bonus. But if they build it in the hours, they're going to get this bonus, but they're going to save us days. We have to look at, we can't hire the crews. You can't hire extra crews. So my thought process this winter was, how do we get more buildings with the same amount of crew? So it's more getting them to, buy in. It's got to be done right. It's got to be done on time or in less time. And by them doing the less time, whatever those hours were, we're basically paying them in a bonus, but we're picking up the day or 2 days, so with 12 crews, if all of them build a job 1 day less, we're picking up 2 weeks of, 1 day less a week, we're picking up 2 weeks of building buildings for where we can't find another crew to hire on that's skilled, that we'll put out there and say, okay, this is our product. So those are the things that the innovation of always changing and trying to keep them positive, because we're dealing with COVID, not necessarily positive COVID, but the preventive part of it, of every crew is a 4-man crew. Well, we have crew trucks for them to go into. Well, we provided another truck or car, so only 2 guys go in a truck, 2 guys go in a car. So that's a year now, and they're not that they're frustrated, but it's, woe is me. I got to drive, and I used to sleep in the truck. And I'm thinking, woe is you. I said, I'm paying for an extra car and all the gas for you to go to every job site. And they're like, I didn't even think of that. So, the COVID weighs on everybody in where it's at. So, yeah, and not to change subjects, but we're promoting the vaccine in the COVID. And these are basically our young guys. So 42 guys, your crew foreman's usually in his late 30s, early 40s, but the brunt worker, the 3 workers are in their 20s, is basically across the board. And out of 42, 24 of them will not get the vaccine.
Mm.
And, I'm trying to set a plan up. I don't know what everybody's thoughts are on it, but I'm for it. I think it's our way out of this. And I'm trying to, just show them the facts to convince them to get it. But
That's a tough one.
yeah.
Hey, it's 3:03. So if anybody wants to go, don't feel awkward disconnecting. And Bob, I don't know, you don't seem like you have a hard stop, but I want to at least call it, if anybody wants to go, they can. But that last that part too, about bonusing people and how you take care of them, that's part of your genius. Is you think about how to. It's like the sports coach. So it's really funny. I go back to how did I meet Bob? Bob was with a clipboard and a whistle, and motivating Eddie and I to get into there during midget football, and that's your thing. That's clearly what you get excited about. And
I do.
You also do community things, right?
Yes, there's, if I could tell anybody in business, if you're making money, a part of what you make should go back into your community. In 2 ways. You can put it back into your community in a way to support and promote your business. In some ways you can't. But you should also do it in a way that is just your due diligence of being a part of it takes a village type thing, of us doing our part to it. I grew up, with a whole lot of brothers and sisters, a young mom and dad who, didn't have a lot. It was not easy. It was tough growing up, and hard a lot of times. So I wanted to make sure that my kids didn't grow up that same way. And that was some of my motivation in being successful. Sports was another one that motivated me in a sports minded way of wanting to win. But becoming a Christian was what, made me want to make sure that we take care of the people that are in our community. And a lot of people need, and I think of it it contradicts somewhat, but in a competitive nature, you want to beat that competitor, and at times I felt we did that just 3 years ago, and it broke my heart that, did we have something to do with this competitor in Allentown going out of business? And I was not all for bringing them to work for us. I thought, why am I doing this? I don't need to do this. But it became such a perfect fit to bring them into us. But the things we do in the community, there's a lot of things we do that nobody, that I do that nobody really knows of, but it still comes back to help, when you're helping the people that need it. Wayne, you had touched base on, you drove by one time and our blown up Santa was blowing down the highway. And, my wife and I would, and we still do, the Big Brothers Big Sisters of Schuylkill County, my wife's on the board, and we sponsor one of their biggest events called Bowl for Kids' Sake. But in that process, my wife said, oh, we're going, and this is probably 12 years ago, they're having their Christmas party. So we went up to this firehouse. I went with her, and all these kids came in and they had Santa, and they got him a gift. And it was, it was a great night, but these kids came in, they had hot dogs and potato chips. And you would swear that these kids won the lotto. Every one of them smiling, they sat in Santa's lap. And I said to my wife, why can't we do more for that? And as Big Brothers grew, they couldn't fit in the firehouse anymore. And they were not going to have it, or they were going to just give the kids their gifts. And we said, why don't we do it at Pioneer? We'll clear out the warehouse, and we have a rental store that we'll bring in all the tables and chairs, and we'll have Santa come here, and we'll cater a meal. So instead of having hot dogs and potato chips, we got them a whole catered, whatever meal, Italian meal. And Santa came in there, and we got them, every one of the kids got a gift. And I've taken some pictures of it, of just how heartwarming it is to have 400 parents and kids in your warehouse that, stores trusses all day, that now just has, we just made into a big happy dinner and meet Santa. This year we did it drive-through because of COVID. We had Santa in the door, and we looped everybody around. They got out, got their gift, and got back in the car. But it's something to be able to be a part of the community, somewhat silent at times, but also trumpeting it. We sponsor a cruise. We do just different things to help little leagues and basketball teams and Girl Scouts and just everything. The Boy Scouts meet in our parking lot every Saturday morning to go on when they're going on their events, and allow them to have events there. And so just, I encourage everybody to do that if they can. Not everybody can do it, but we can, and we try to be a part of it.
Well, that's it. Thanks to Bob Greene for doing that great interview. It was wonderful to end on the note of his community involvement and how he serves. So I hope this brings a little bit of inspiration, both about business growth, about employee motivation, about keeping the dream alive, about how to, kind of grow ahead of demand, or do you generate the demand and then build infrastructure? And I hope it gives you some inspiration about community involvement, because Bob certainly is very involved with the community. it's great to be friends and neighbors with Bob, and we're actually having somebody out to look at another one of his structures here at the farm next week. Take care. Bye.